welcome back to A Full Deco. We're back with another ocean piece. For some reason, I just want to make a bunch of oceans in the winter because I can't go to the beach. But today we are going to be making an ocean honeycomb organizer. And look at how cute it is with the little sea creatures and the little waves. And it's like kind of transparent, so it looks pretty neat as if you're like seeing through the waters. And I will show you exactly how I made this piece and how it looks like when it's being used. Let's get started. This is our honeycomb organizer mode. I made this mode myself. I don't offer it for sale anymore, but you can still follow this tutorial with any tray mode. The resin that we're using today is Total Bolt's high performance resin, the slow hardener version. This is what the bottle looks like. It is a 2-to-1 ratio resin, meaning you need 2 parts A and 1 part B. The larger sizes comes with calibrated pumps to make the measuring process so much easier. 1 pump A, 1 pump B, and that's equal parts. No need for a scale or measuring cup. For this first layer, we're just pouring the rim, so the little bit of milk that is already mixed up is all we need for the rim. We're going to add some of these shells around the rim to make each individual hexagon stand out a little bit more. These shells are from Michaels. Use blue tape to clean the mold before you work to make sure that there are no dust that gets trapped into the piece. We're going to pour the clear resin into the rim and then add our shells. This little bit of resin is less than what we need for filling up the rim of this organizer, but I just need the resin to hold down the shells. The shells take up space as well, so I don't want to pour too much and have the resin leak into the tray section of the piece. If it does, it's not too noticeable, but at some angles you'll see it. It's kind of like you have to know what you're looking for to find it, and because of that, and since I am making the piece, I would definitely know what to look for, and it bothered me a bit. I wouldn't call myself a perfectionist over this, but still. Anyways, these shells also create some bubbles, and they'll usually float to the top, and you can use a heat gun to pop the bubbles when they rise to the surface. Another note is these specific shells have a dull side and shiny side. The shiny side has a more pearl effect, and you'll notice that I take a little bit of time with placing the shells. This part of the video is actually sped up about 5 times because of how slow I am working in this part of the process. I'm making sure that the shells have both shiny side and dull side facing the front of the piece, and I want it to look as natural as I can. So I am placing these shells individually. If you want, you can just spread them out and let it be. Once the shell placement is complete, we'll let this layer set and then come back to do a layer of waves. I also just want to let you know that all the products that I used in this video will be linked in the description. You'll find the materials that is available for you to purchase if you wanted to follow along this tutorial and make an ocean tray as well. If I have any discount codes available for you, I will also have that in the description. I do have a discount code for resin, and I know resin is expensive, so I hope that helps a bit. The layer of shells has hardened, and we're back for the second layer. Before we do our pour, use blue tape to clean up the inside of the mold. Pick up any dust that fell in or resin that dripped into the center while we were doing the rim layer. Since for this layer we're doing the waves, we don't really want black spots smack in the middle of our white waves. You can also use packaging tape for this step. For the waves, I like to use a thicker resin, so for this layer we're using Total Bolt's tabletop resin. This is what the bottle looks like. It's a 1-to-1 ratio resin, and these don't have pumps, so make sure you're measuring properly. Use a measuring cup to get the correct volume ratio. The white paste that we're using today is Mermaid Trash's white foam. She's another resin artist that specializes in ocean art, and she made this paste for some easy waves. I set aside a little bit of resin into the small cup for the white pigment paste, and then poured the clear into the mold. I am pouring small amounts of resin at a time into the mold because I want a thin layer just to cover the entire mold. The depth of this tray part for this mold is only about 1/4 inch deep, so I want to make sure I have enough space for my blue layer of the ocean. If you come across any bubbles, you can use a heat gun to pop them when they're at the surface. Now let's mix some of this white paste into the resin we set aside. I just dip my popsicle stick into the paste for a small amount. I don't have an exact ratio for white paste to resin ratio, but don't overdo it, or too much pigment in general can affect the resin curing. Let me add a tad more resin to this since I spotted a bald spot, and now let's make our waves. For my waves, I like to make random thin lines of white with my popsicle stick. I think this gives the most natural look for me. When you're happy with the white lines, use a heat gun to push the waves. Now listen carefully. Resin shrinks in the curing process, and I think because of that, it tends to move towards the center. You know how when you pour into a mold and it's not all the way to the top, you get a little dip around the edges, just a little. That's because of the resin shrinking. It will do that in this step as well, so the resin will slowly shift towards the center. The waves that we create will also slowly shift towards the center. That's why using a thicker resin in this step helps more, because it won't move as much, and the work time for this tabletop resin is about 20 minutes. The work time you get with the resin does depend on your environment, and I am working in room temperature about 72 degrees Fahrenheit, so the 20 minutes is the work time I get in my environment. Since it'll gel faster, the waves will be more likely to stay in place. I hope you got what I was trying to explain. If you have any questions about this part, let me know in the comments. So now in this video, I am just adding more white, a little bit more clear, and adjusting the waves to get my desired look. When we're happy with this layer, we'll let this set and then come back to do our final layer. Onto the background layer. It's not a complete ocean without these sea creatures. I got these from another resin artist, but unfortunately they no longer offer these for sale. They are vinyl sea creatures, so you can cut them with a Cricut or a silhouette if you have one. Or Etsy may have some sellers offering these vinyl sea creatures as well. I will have to find another supplier soon, so I'll let you know if I find one in the future. I am picking out the different sea creatures that I want for this organizer and treating each hexagon as if it was an individual design. The rim is my guide for this, and I don't want to place the creatures where the rim is, or else the sea creatures will just be hidden. I do have these creatures in various sizes, and I like to pair them up like mom and baby swimming side by side. You also want to make sure that as you're placing the vinyl, the least bubbles in the vinyl, the better. I'm not the best with vinyl applications, so you may notice this when we demold it. But remember, we are working backwards. That means the sticky side of this sea creature is going to be at the front of the piece. If there are any bubbles between the vinyl and the resin, you'll see a little gap, and also make sure that the back of the vinyl that you're using is the color that you want. I'm pretty sure solid colors are the same front and back, but I don't know about pattern ones, so just double check. We are using Totalbolt's high performance slow resin for this layer. It's the same one we used for the rim. The blues that we're using are the turquoise blue and tropical blue from May Spring. You know how I pointed out the slightly transparent effect in the intro? That's because I did not mix in too much pigment in this step. The more pigment you mix into the resin, the more opaque it will be. Just keep that in mind when you're working with colors in general. Some pigments are more opaque to begin with, so starting small and adding more if you need is a good practice. Most of the times you can easily add more, but you'll have a hard time removing if you put too much. I just want to point out that I speed up the mixing a lot in my videos because mixing is a slow process and it'll be really slow in real time. Mixing this fast will create lots of bubbles, so make sure you are mixing slowly. When the colors are fully mixed in, we can pour the colors. You'll know the colors are mixed when you don't see clumps of mica powder. As I was pouring, I realized how close the colors are to each other, so it didn't really matter how I poured the two colors or how I tried to blend the colors. The blues are too similar to tell the difference. When we're done with the colors, we'll let the layer fully cure and then be back to demold it. It's done and we can demold it now. The cure time for this resin is about 5 to 6 hours for me, but I generally like to leave final layers curing overnight just to make sure that it's completely hardened. Look at how pretty this organizer is. The shells make it really nice. I love the pearl of these shells. You can see the bubbles that I was talking about in the sea creatures, but they still look so cute. Not too much cells in the waves, but I still like how this organizer looks. It looks like the little turtles, sharks, and manta rays are enjoying their life. I love this organizer. I will top coat this off camera and then show you what it looks like in another setting and extra shiny. If you need a top coating tutorial, you can check it out on my channel. I have one for flat pieces and trays as well. Look at how pretty this piece is in this brighter lighting. The top coating also adds a little dome effect to the rim and it makes the pearl shells pop so much more. I'm not sure if you noticed the slight matte finish when we demold it because the mold has been used so many times already, but the top coat is affixed to matte mold and bringing the shine back to our resin art. And here are just some examples of how you can use your organizer. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching this video. I really enjoyed making this honeycomb organizer. It's one of my favorite things to make. If you like this honeycomb organizer, you can check it out in my shop along with a bunch of all the stuff that I make on this channel. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and let me know down in the comments below if you have any questions or feedback. I'll see you next time.